Hi, boys and girls. Do you know what this is? Do you know what it is now? Do you know what it is now? It was my sweater. When you looked at my sweater up close, you couldn't really see what it was. But as you got further and further away, it showed up nice and clear and you were able to see, oh, that's Mrs. Hall's sweater. Well, there's a special style of art called Impressionism. And that is where you paint lots of little tiny dots and lines, and it just kind of looks like a sloppy mess until you step away from it, and the further away you get from it, the more clear the picture becomes. We're going to read a story called Katie Meets the Impressionists. This book is by James Mayhew, and the artwork and illustrations in it are going to feature some of the most famous works of art in the world. Scholastic Books has given their permission for me to read this to you. It was Grandma's birthday, and for a special treat, she took Katie to the art museum. Katie loved the museum because you never knew what you were going to see there. "Look at the flowers in the painting," said Grandma. "I can only see spots," said Katie. "The pictures are made up of dabs of paint and color," said Grandma. "But when you stand back, the dabs make a picture." Katie wandered off into the next room to try. There she saw a painting called "The Luncheon" by Claude Monet. Let me get in here close so you boys and girls can see it. You see there's two ladies walking in the background and kind of a tea party or a picnic with a little boy sitting on the ground. Let's find out about that. "The Luncheon" by Claude Monet, and when you stood back you could see a garden. Grandma would love flowers like those for her birthday. Katie closed her eyes and sniffed. She was sure she could smell the flowers. And when Katie opened her eyes, there she was, among the daisies and hollyhocks, the roses and the sunflowers. "Can I pick some flowers?" said Katie to the little boy whose name was Jean. Jean called to his mother and Nanny and spoke to them in French. "Un bouquet?" said his mother. "Oui, Jean, you go and help the girl." So the people in the painting were Jean and his mom and the nanny. Looks like they were about to have a tea time. So Jean and Katie gathered flowers together. "Are you going to paint them?" he asked. "No, they're for my grandma," said Katie. "Papa paints flowers," said Jean. "I'll show you." Jean took Katie to a room full of pictures, like a small gallery. It almost looks like a museum in their house, doesn't it? "This is Papa's studio," he said. "He's a famous painter. His name is Claude Monet." "I'm good at painting," said Katie. "Let's try it." And using brushes, they mixed the paint onto palettes and found canvases to paint on. Who do you think she's painting there? Kind of looks like Jean to me. "Now, I'd better get back to Grandma," said Katie, and they went out into the garden. "Will you come another day?" said Jean. "I'd like to," said Katie. She picked up the bunch of flowers and, waving goodbye, climbed through the frame into the museum. Now she's back in the museum with Grandma, but she has the flowers from the Monet painting. Oh. Katie saw the bunch of flowers was beginning to wilt. "What I need is some water," she said, looking around the gallery. What does that little girl in the painting have in her hand? Do you see a watering can? She saw a painting called "Girl with a Watering Can" by Pierre-Auguste Renoir. Katie looked around to make sure no one was watching her and climbed inside. "Can I have some water for my flowers?" said Katie. The little girl put the flowers into her watering can. "Voila!" she said. But the flowers still drooped and flopped over. "Come and pick some more," said the girl. So Katie and the girl trampled through the garden picking flowers. Katie pretended it was a jungle and that she was a panther chasing the girl. Suddenly there was a terrible scream. It was the girl's mother. "You have ruined my garden!" she shouted. "It wasn't me," said the girl. "It was her." And she pointed at Katie. "Come here, you naughty child," said the mother. But Katie ran for the picture frame and leapt into the museum, leaving the flowers scattered behind her. Uh-oh, now we don't have any flowers for Grandma. Katie giggled. She didn't dare go back to fetch the flowers. She went to look at the other pictures. There were lots of pictures by Monet. And Katie looked at one called Field of Poppies. Now, Poppy's what my kids call their grandpa. But this isn't a field of grandpas, it's a field of red flowers. Can you see them? Those are poppies. Field of poppies. Do we recognize the little boy? Is it Jean? Let's find out. Katie climbed in to see. It was Jean. He was delighted to see her. "We're going on a picnic," he said. And Jean's mother said that Katie could join them. They walked together through the poppy field looking for somewhere to sit. Katie helped Jean gather armfuls of poppies for Grandma. Afterwards, they sat in the shade of the tree, the perfect place for a picnic. Mrs. Monet opened a bag. She had bread and cheese and strawberries. Yum. Might have to have that for a picnic today. But Jean heard a buzzing and looked up. Bzz, bzz. A black cloud of bees was flying right towards them. "Ah! They're after my poppies!" shouted Katie, her mouth full of strawberries. Jean and his mother ran toward the poppy field, but Katie ran to the picture frame and dived into the museum. The bees followed Katie, who ran on until she reached a window. She flung it open and threw the poppies out. The bees flew after them. What do you think those bees wanted from the poppies? Did they want the pollen? Katie panted until she got her breath back. She still didn't have any flowers for Grandma. She saw another painting by Pierre-Auguste Renoir. It showed a girl at the theater and was called Her First Evening Out. This girl was holding a posy of flowers. "Grandma would love a posy like that," said Katie before jumping into the picture. "May I have your flowers?" asked Katie. "I'll swap my hair ribbon." "Hush," said the girl. "The ballet is about to begin." Katie looked for a seat, but they were all full. The theater manager appeared. "Mademoiselle, may I see your ticket?" he said. Katie didn't have one, so she ran off down some steps. She could hear the manager coming after her, so she opened a door to hide and stumbled upon some people in bright costumes. When they started shouting at her, she ran the other way, toward some bright lights and the sound of music. Katie pushed past heavy velvet curtains and found herself on stage. The dancers held their breath. So did the musicians in the orchestra. So did the audience. What was Katie going to do? Katie danced! The music started up again and Katie pranced all around the stage. How the audience loved her. They had never seen anyone dance like that before. They cheered and clapped and threw flowers. Hundreds of flowers fell upon Katie as she twirled around. "Well done," they shouted. "Bravo!" When the music stopped, Katie curtsied and gathered up all her flowers. The manager rushed over to her. "My dear, you have such talent." Katie blushed. "Oh, I just jumped around a bit, really," she said. "You must dance every night. You will be famous," said the manager. Thanks, but it's Grandma's birthday," said Katie. "I must get back." But Katie could not find her way to the picture frame. There were people everywhere, changing costumes. She was afraid she might be stuck in the theater forever. All of a sudden, she saw another frame. "I must be in another picture," said Katie. She gathered up her bouquet and climbed into the museum. Oh. Katie looked back at the painting, "The Blue Dancers" by Edward Degas. This artist loved to paint ballerinas. "I wonder if I would have been painted if I had stayed still long enough," she said. Then Katie ran over to her grandma and gave her the flowers. "Happy birthday, Grandma." "My goodness," said Grandma. "Wherever did you get these lovely flowers?" Katie just laughed. But what was that in her pocket? A paintbrush! Monet will need that, she thought. She ran back to the first picture, left the brush on the frame, and then ran to catch up with her grandma. The end. And in the back of this book, which you can probably find at a bookstore or the library when it opens back up, it tells you more about the artists that were part of the Impressionist movement. We saw some of Renoir, we saw some Degas, we saw some Monet, and there are many more. We'll explore those, and maybe we'll even do a little bit of our own Impressionist artwork sometime. Well, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed Katie Meets the Impressionists.